Want to see how Pam Bondi's doing? Want to see what she's up to in Congress?
They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. And obviously, you followed that order. Lindsay Halligan, Trump's former defense lawyer who had never prosecuted a case in her life, was installed to replace Mr. Siebert, and it was clear that part of her mandate was to go after Ms. James. Halligan immediately sought an indictment, which the court dismissed because Halligan was illegally put into the role. But your department was undeterred, and not once, but twice, it tried to indict Attorney General James in separate courts. Both grand juries rejected you and refused to indict her. It is practically unheard of for a grand jury to refuse an indictment. In 2016, it happened in just 6 cases out of over 150,000 offenses. And you had it happen twice in the same week, in 2 different courts. That must have been humiliating.
Yeah, there's actually a saying in the United States legal system, you can indict a ham sandwich. And so when he says it's kind of rare, and I'm not trying to make a comment on whether that's good or bad, it's just rare for it not to be, accepted. Because, like I said, you can indict a ham sandwich.
And now there are reports you are continuing to investigate her. The amount of resources that have gone into targeting Attorney General James, months of investigations.
6 out of 100,000, and like most of them are hers. Like that's like opening a pack of Pokemon cards and drawing 6 original Charizards. Like the entire pack is just Charizards, shiny holographic Charizards.
Multiple failed indictments is astounding. Since your own prosecutors told you that there is not enough evidence to support a conviction, it's clear that you were going after her simply because she held President Trump accountable and he wants to punish her. And she is just one name on a long list of Trump political enemies.
Yeah, that's a good point. He should make this point, though. Like, you're trying to tell me that there's enough evidence to go after Letitia James and James Comey, according to the Trump DOJ, but not enough evidence to go after a single other Epstein co-conspirator. Like, imagine that. Like, we know Trump is doing political prosecutions, but for those of you who don't think that that's what's happening, which is no one, obviously, with the brain, like, that would be the case. And that's so hard to believe, that there's real evidence to go after Letitia James and no real evidence to go after anyone in those files based on what we've seen in both cases.
Is reportedly targeting, from Jerome Powell and Lisa Cook at the Federal Reserve to James Comey, numerous Democratic members of Congress, John Brennan, Jack Smith, Democratic officials in Minnesota, Chris Krebs, Miles Taylors, and more. And those are just the ones we know about. In contrast to these politically motivated investigations, grasping at something they can charge their enemies with, we now have concrete evidence of disgusting criminality revealed in the Epstein files.
Thank you.
So I really have just one question for you. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
First.
Yep, here it is.
You showed it. I find it.
How many have you?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
Didn't I say it? This is her one mode. Super indignant and combative. And I mean, like, you don't have to take shit, but she comes out so hot, so fast that it's like suspicious. Like, she acts like Sweet D in a bit on Always Sunny. Like I always say, it's like Sweet D gives testimony in front of Congress when Pam Bondi speaks.
I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're answer the
theatrics are
question
ridiculous.
the way I asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people, but I'm going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
The time belongs.
I think it's very interesting.
Reclaiming my time.
I think it's very interesting.
I think it's very interesting. It's not funny, but I think it's interesting that I'm not mad.
Please stop the clock and restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will get in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from New York. We will give you
no offense. I hate these. I hate this like Robert's Rule of Orders like shit. It's so stupid. Like, rewind his clock. We're gonna let them fight. Let her come over there and beat the shit out of him if that's the case.
Do that, but when you ask a question, The witness gets to answer. You may not like the answer, but she gets to answer.
The question was, how many of Epstein's...
They don't like the answer, Chairman.
Reclaiming my time.
Because it's honest.
Reclaiming
my minute question.
Restore 45 seconds, Mr. Nadler, please, Mr. Chairman.
Answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch. Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me
Yeah, I did tell you because we saw what you did in the Senate.
Will be in order. We will give you a few more seconds. I said that already.
Arrest her.
Okay.
Arrest her. This is a circus.
The answer to my question, how many...
It's because there's no accountability. Throw her in jail, my brother.
Zero.
Not Jim Jordan,
You have been
obviously.
the
He's not my
Attorney General
brother.
for a whole year, and your DOJ fired the lead prosecutor of this case, sat on evidence this entire time, and claimed falsely last July that there were no more leads. It took an act of Congress for you to finally release part of the Epstein files, and when you did, you included personal information about the victims while protecting the names of abusers.
Time of the gentleman has expired.
Brought to justice.
This is live. This is live right now.
Gentleman has
It says 10:58 up there. We're behind.
Under your leadership, the Department of Justice no longer...
She still didn't answer because she just started screaming and then like time ran out. Like she did the Chewbacca defense.
There.
It works.
Donald
Trump. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
May I answer?
I think our next questioner, Madam Attorney General, is going to give you time to respond to.
Thank you, Chairman.
All kinds of things. So we will turn to the gentleman from Texas for 5 minutes.
Ms. Bondi, you go right ahead.
Screw off, Jim Jordan.
Over here. The time
Thanks,
is yours.
Jim Jordan.
Thank you. First, he brought up the president saying they indicted me twice. They sure did. They tried to impeach him twice. And you, Mr. Nadler, were one of the leads on the impeachment. I was on the other side. I lived that with you. During impeachment, you said the president conspired, sought foreign interference in the 2016 election. Robert Mueller found no evidence, none, of foreign interference in 2016. Have you apologized to President Trump? Have you apologized to President Trump, all of you who participated in those impeachment hearings against Donald Trump? You all should be apologizing. You sit here and you attack the president, and I am not going to have it. I'm not going to put up with it. You know, all they want to do, the American people need to know this.
Oh, here we go.
They are talking about Epstein today. This has been around since the Obama administration.
Okay, everybody. First of all, she's terrible at lying too. This is another example of really bad lying that they think works because it's just loud. But yeah, let's go for it. Let's hear it. Let's hear how Obama did Epstein. Okay, it's Obama's fault now.
To do. The American people need to know this. They are talking about Epstein today.
Spit it.
This has been around since the Obama administration. This administration released over 3 million pages of documents.
Forced.
Over 3 million.
That's what I was just. Did I not just say that they do this? That now that it's signed, they try to erase the fact that he fought it for months, that he threatened people for months. It is so funny, and people like sometimes buy it. That's crazy. O'Bungler did it.
This administration released over 3 million pages
Slam your
of
pin.
documents.
Slam your pin, girl.
3 million.
Spit your game. Talk your shit.
Donald Trump signed that law to release all of those documents.
Sure.
He is the most transparent president in the nation's history. And none of them.
I can see right through them. I can see right through this too.
Merrick Garland, over the last 4 years, one word about Jeffrey Epstein. How ironic is that? You know why? Because Donald Trump, the Dow right now is over.
Do you guys like when she does that, like, I'm not mad, I'm actually laughing, like the kind of like dry chuckle thing? Like, do you guys buy that? She's really bad at this. She's not as bad as Erica Kirk is, but like she does that like, I'm not. Like a fucking like dolphin. Like it's crazy. Like do you think she practices it, or do you think this is just what she thinks? Like it's like a soap opera. She's like a soap opera actress.
Trump The Dow right now is over. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is
shit!
right now. The S&P at almost 7,000.
That's in
and the
Tito.
NASDAQ smashing records. Americans' 401ks and retirement savings are booming. That's what we should be talking about. We should be talking about making Americans safe.
Wow.
We should be talking about what does the Dow have to do with anything? That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
What does the Dow have to do with all of those pedophiles? Excuse me. I don't want to get banned, but what does the Dow have to do with all of those pedophiles? What does the Dow have to do with all of those pedophiles?
What does the Dow have to do with
and you know what would be crazy too, though? Like, even if the Dow is up, even if people could turn their brain off because, like, you know, and I think honestly, a lot more Americans might be less interested in this if their bellies were full and their bank accounts were, like, you know, in the 4 or 5 digit range. But that's not the world that Trump has created either. And so, you know, talking about how well the Dow is doing does not mean that everyone is doing well. And so it's not going to distract from this stuff, right? So, like, the Dow doing well, who cares? Like, I don't got no fucking money. You guys got money because the Dow's doing well? Like, I'm not invested in industrials.
That's what they just asked. Are you kidding?
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan.
Committee will be in order.
It's a circus.
Mr. Jordan, am I going to get an extra 45 seconds added to my time?
The committee will be in order. The time belongs to the gentleman from Texas. Ms. Bondi, the Attorney General can respond.
Thank you. The Dow has shattered 50,000 for the first time.
Back to the Dow.
Crazy. They said it couldn't be done in 4 years, yet
They said
Trump
it couldn't be done. That's nice.
1
What's the
year.
president's age range of
National
attraction?
median rents have fallen to a 4-year low thanks to Donald Trump. That's why they want to focus on Epstein and our most transparent president in the nation's history. The murder rate, as I said, has plummeted to a 125-year low thanks to Donald Trump. For an unprecedented 9 straight months, there were 0 illegal border crossings at the southern border. That's what we should be focused on. All the great work that this president has done,
not the Epstein files,
to keep America safe.
I think honestly, I know I keep pausing it, but it's fine. I don't think that's a good argument. Not just because you can focus on multiple things at the same time, but like when you make that argument, you're basically saying, don't worry about the international pedophile ring that you're basically sure exists, person out there who's listening to this. Just worry about all of these good things Trumps are doing, which may not even impact your personal life, given the disconnect between the stock market and like individual spending power. So like, what are you really saying? There's like really no incentive for people to believe any of this, not from the rhetorical level, which is terrible, not from like the like literal sense. Like it's not even technically true, most of the stuff, like in terms of like its impact people's lives. Like, why would anyone even buy this? Why would anyone subscribe to this who's like not, you know, literally a billionaire who's on the Epstein list?
And to make Americans safe.
Thank you,
Except for from him.
Bondi. I agree with you totally. I think you've done a fine job. I think that Democrats, in fact, should be apologizing to the Epstein victims for doing nothing during the 4 years that they were running the government. We did not hear about this, and it took you and President Trump to finally provide transparency and give.
I'm sorry, who's this guy speaking? I don't know every member of Congress, but who's this guy?
Answers to the American people, and I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you also for standing up for truth today and for fighting back against the theatrics and the time waste that you will.
She's fighting back against the theatrics.
I want to apologize on behalf of my colleagues on the left.
No, we're going to skip this dumbass.
Chairman.
And you, thank you, Chairman.
All right. The chair now recognizes.
Mr. Chairman, I would note.
It's back. The chair recognizes the gentlelady from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Who?
I would note that Mr. Nadler's question has not yet been answered.
Thank you.
I want to start by asking that out of respect for the American public and the Epstein survivors, some of whom, of course, are here today, that we can have a transparent conversation and get the public the answers they deserve. I want to briefly direct you.
Why is Gorbachev there right next to her? No, it's not. That's not what Gorbachev's head discoloration looked like.
Your attention to two documents I'm hoping we will put up on the screen.
God, every member of the House is like either old or a young Republican. And by young, I mean 45.
Identified as M was pro or civilian, and Epstein responds that she was.
Hold on, this is really low on your end, but that's because they're mic'd up terribly there. Let me see if I can raise the volume because you're definitely going to be complaining about not being able to hear it. The people criticize me and my mic skills, but it seems like everyone fucking sucks at it. Why are you guys so picky about? Why you guys so picky about me?
Civilian, Russian, and fun. In the second email, Epstein writes to Steve Tisch about a Ukrainian girl, noting that she was, quote, a little freaked out by the age difference and stating that he would try to convince her not to return to Ukraine. He then instructs Mr. Tisch to call him, adding, I don't like records of these conversations. So I'd like to ask a straightforward question that really is either a yes or no answer. Do these emails constitute credible evidence, not proof, but credible evidence warning further investigation into whether Steve Tisch was involved in Epstein's criminal conduct? Do you think yes or no?
I'm not going to play a yes-no game with you, but I will answer the question to the best of my ability. As I said, we will look and investigate any case involving any victim. I'm not familiar, there were 3 million pages, of course, with that email, but of course, we will look into anything. The documents have been released, 3 million, the redacted versions, we left them.
Okay, but did you look into them? Because that's the question that I keep asking, and I think that I thought it might have been unreasonable, but now that she's asking it, I'm sure it's unreasonable because she's a member of the American House. But to me, a lot of these emails seem to indicate that there's something that you should have looked into, but no one seems to be able to actively account for whether or not that happened, and they're actually actively pretending like it's rude to even ask. Like, did you look into this person who was like listing off a series of little girls' ages between 8 and 13? How? It's like, did you look into that? That seems a little strange. Did you look into it? And how did you clear that guy? It's bananas.
Documents have been released, 3 million. The redacted versions, we left them open for all of you to come.
She doesn't even slam her hands convincingly. She just does it so rotely, like she's going through the motions, but she's not even slamming them.
I believe you view them. If not, will you have some copies?
I'd like to.
But could I finish, please? I'm not being rude. Please.
I only have 5 minutes.
No, yeah, and I only have 30 seconds based on your filibuster.
Well, you didn't. So let me just go further.
Pam Bondi is so rude. I'm sorry. She just she comes across so poorly. They all come across so poorly, but in different ways. Howard Lutnick comes across as a skeevy liar. Kash Patel comes across as a manic psychopath, and just Pam Bondi is just so rude. She reminds me of Sweet D. She reminds me of the Sweet D character from Always Sunny, but played straight. And when you see an Always Sunny character played straight, when a guy identifies being like Dennis, it's always oh no. And she's so much if Sweet D was in front of Congress. She just is so rude. She's so rude and disrespect. It's almost like Pam Bondi wants to spit in this old woman's face, right? She wants to go up there and just spit in this old ass lady's face, but she's not allowed to.
But you didn't give a yes or no answer, so let me just go further. Director Patel testified in this committee room that there was no credible information indicating that Epstein trafficked victims to anyone else. And glancing at the documents, that proves that's not the case. In July, your department issued a memo stating that it had conducted an exhaustive review of the Epstein files and concluded that no additional individuals would be charged. So I did go over to the Department of Justice yesterday. I would note that 400 and all our 35 members are in the House, and there's 4 computers. So it would take many months to actually have the time. I only had a few hours. I think the transparency argument is really kind of a sham because it's not really possible.
Whoa. Did you have to wait to get a computer?
It is not possible to really go in. I did, however, see a U.S. attorney information for the Southern District of New York indicating that there were additional survivors and probable co-conspirators. Other members of Congress have uncovered likely co-conspirators whose names were blocked out. Now, the Epstein File Transparency Act, which all but one member of this House voted for and the president signed, requires the department to release everything except that it needs to be redacted to protect the victims or an ongoing prosecution, which apparently there is none from the testimony we have received. I am concerned that this act has not been fully complied with. When Director Patel came to the committee, he admitted.
Okay. Do you think that like Pam Bondi is going to go insane on this old lady? And obviously, I'm not against going like insane on our politicians, but I just know that like she's going to go insane on this lady after she asked this question. It's going to seem so weird and so suspicious because the question is, all of this stuff seems really reasonable. And I'm actually glad it's being asked, not that it's going to lead to any real accountability, because it's all the same stuff that I was curious about, which was like, well, was there any investigation? Because there seems to be tons of evidence, and you're saying that you're saying that there was no co-conspirators, but the only way you could know that would be if you looked into this evidence, because certainly you can't say that nothing suspicious was up, right? The only thing you could say is that like, well, we looked into the suspicious stuff and it turns out it was all just smoke, no fire. But the very question of like, okay, but what did that investigation look like? Because it seems like there's tons of documents. No one has a good accounting of what's in them. They're lazily redacted. They were scrubbed years ago. What did the investigation by the DOJ and FBI in Trump's first term or in the intervening time look like? And from the outside, and again, I'm not trying to allege any kind of inside knowledge on obviously the case or what happened, but from the outside, it looks like one of two things is true. There was no investigation at all for one of a few reasons related to like, okay, powerful people don't look into this, or the CIA did this. Why are you going to investigate it? The FBI shouldn't be investigating the CIA, although probably wouldn't be the first time. Or like, you know what? We just didn't investigate it at all. we got this, we put it in a box, or we did investigate it, and it turned out that we hit a bunch of roadblocks because there were a lot of people missing who we couldn't find, or because it led us to powerful people who we just didn't want to do anything about. So but you can't say that there's no evidence. There's no nothing to be suspicious about. It's only what did you do to investigate those suspicions that led you to the conclusion that there was nothing going on. Because what they said was that there are no indictments, there's no evidence of there being any wrongdoing, but there's tons of evidence of that. There's tons of evidence of it unless you put on your most credulous hat. There's tons of evidence. Now, that doesn't mean that anything happened. It just means there's tons of evidence.
1,000 FBI agents had gone through the files and redacted President Trump's name from them. And it's pretty clear that what has been transmitted from the FBI continues to redact President Trump's name, even though he is mentioned, thousands of times in these files. So I think
she's going to explode on this lady
in terms of complying with the act has been damaged. And I think the department's credibility has been damaged in other ways. I think we all saw the horrible video of American citizens being killed by ICE agents in Minneapolis. And I think how the department has handled these cases raises a lot of doubt about the department.
No, see, I don't think that they should combine these issues because you need to stick to the Epstein stuff. Not because that other DHS stuff is not important, because if you give her the ability to talk about anything else but the Epstein thing, she's going to take it and she's going to like run with it. So if you mention the DHS stuff, like, which is very important and very bad, she's going to for sure just like try not to acknowledge the Epstein thing.
State and local police in Minnesota got a court order to get access to the crime scene to be sure evidence would be properly preserved by federal agents. But they took the agents defied the court order, and in a departure from general policy, the DOJ is not
she is filibustering. But this is the issue with the
on these homicides.
This is the issue with the House, because like what you're seeing is someone trying to get all of their talking points in, right? Not because they're expecting a good answer from her, but because when this plays on local news in California, when this plays on like, you know, CBS California affiliate or Fox California affiliate, they're going to cut up these like questions and these points into little like quick segments, and they're going to go like, watch your representative question Pam Bondi about Epstein, watch your representative question Pam Bondi about DHS killings, watch your representative question Pam Bondi about blah. And you know, obviously getting this stuff on the record, we can debate the importance of that, but it's certainly not the best way to actually question someone about this sort of stuff, because rightfully you won't even be able to answer the question because you're just saying like, yeah, you're just doing a really, really shitty job on every standpoint. But that's not what that's meant to elicit. This is just meant so that, like, you know, her answer might be 5 minutes of her talking or 4.5 minutes of her talking with just Pam Bondi yelling back at her. But when they cut it up on television, they'll just cut it up into like 45 seconds here or there where she makes these like structured points without realizing that it's kind of just, you know, it's not the best way to engage us, in my opinion.
It's a disgraceful approach to the homicides of American citizens, and really does nothing to bring credit to your department. And Mr. Chairman, I would yield back.
Gentlelady yields back.
May I answer?
Attorney General can respond.
I find it interesting that she keeps going after President Trump, the greatest president in American history. And if they could maintain their composure, this isn't a circus, this is a hearing. I find it interesting she keeps going after Donald Trump. She doesn't say how much money she took from Reid Hoffman, did you?
None.
And nor did
Mr.
she
Chairman,
post
regular
anything.
order, please.
She
Regular
posted
order.
nothing on her X account, on her Twitter account during the Biden years.
Gentlelady.
She posted nothing online.
She's going after.
Committee will be in
point of
order.
There was no
Committee will be
question
in
on
order.
the Attorney General. Just get to
Committee will be in order.
I have a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Committee will be in order.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlelady can state her point of order.
When a witness attacks,
Not a valid point of order. You got to state.
She hasn't completed her point of order yet. Please let her speak, Mr. Chairman. Let's have some regular order here.
Regular order is you got to state the rule. And she
I am trying to make a point of order that the witness,
And what
without
rule are you referring to?
without responding.
I could never do some shit like this. I would be furious. I would be furious about all this like fake nonsense. You know, this nonsense in service of noncery. We would just have to. I would just start screaming. They would have to take me out of here. They would have to take me out of here. They would have been like, Senator Brandon Sutton crashed out during House hearing. I would have been frothing out the mouth, angry over this bullshit. So we started watching the Pam Bondi hearing yesterday when it was live, but it kind of started at an inopportune time for us because the stream was ending. But even the little bit that we saw was both well within my expectations. So people will say that it was crazy, and I can't disagree with that. But it's the way she always acts during these. And it's also not just crazy, but incredibly suspicious. Like, it's the kind of righteous indignation that people think makes them look innocent, but she's very bad at it, for one, and it makes her look so guilty. It makes them look super guilty. That being said, it was also incredibly unhinged. It is some of the most unhinged stuff I have ever seen in a congressional hearing. And it was like, endless examples of it. I have so many clips. And so I just want to like watch as many of them as possible. And if I'm missing any, let's just go, like, just tell me. But we should definitely start with the Ted Lieu one, because that one is bananas. I haven't watched all of these. I've just seen the people go like, yeah,
I have a
just this exchange was shocking. This exchange was shocking. This exchange was shocking about basically every one of them. So yeah, let's actually get into this. She just goes full like sicko mode.
I have a UC.
Ms. Crockett from Texas is recognized for UC.
Thank you so much. Donald Trump's approval rating implodes on his strongest issue. This is from Newsweek today. It says 40% of people approve of Trump's handling of immigration and border security, while 60% disapprove.
Without objection,
that is a
admitted.
net drop.
Now I recognize the gentleman
20.
from California, Mr. Lieu.
Thank you, Attorney General Bondi, for being here today. I'm going to show you two photos.
Thank you.
I'm going to show you two photos of former Prince Andrew. Prince Andrew attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. Under the law Congress passed, you were allowed to redact photos to protect the victims of Epstein's sex trafficking operation. You redacted the photos of this victim's face.
No, it's good. It's good that he thanked her, because he's about to body her. It's the same way you thank somebody before you just absolutely Yamcha them. You like leave them in a crater. Now, just because she gets bodied in these particular exchanges doesn't mean that that's the same thing as accountability. And I want you to, not lose sight of that because of how wild these encounters are. The fact that this is not the same thing as actual accountability, even if she looks bad, even if it looks like to us that it's incredibly shameful and embarrassing and she loses face, that's not the same way they think about the world. But it should be quite clear that she doesn't think about the world the same way we do.
Operation. You redacted the photos of this victim's face because you were following the congressional law. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, that we redacted the victim's
Because you were following the congressional law, correct?
Yes.
Oh, I see where he's going with this. Oh, yeah, he's about to trap her. I see it. He's about to trap her in like a logic octagon, like a logic submission hold.
Okay. You have now established that please put the photos back up, that we are looking at a sex trafficking victim.
Yeah.
Under the Federal Victims Trafficking Protection Act, not only is Jeffrey Epstein guilty, but anyone who patronizes Epstein's sex operation is also guilty of a crime. That's why I find it absolutely despicable that you sought to protect Epstein's clients, like former Prince Andrew.
Former
Last
Prince
July,
Andrew, just
you
true now,
closed
mate.
the case on Epstein's abusers. The July 2025 memo from your Department of Justice stated, quote, "We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." These two photos, please put the photos back up. These two photos staring you in the face are evidence of a crime and more than enough evidence to predicate an investigation against former Prince Andrew.
Exactly.
So I ask you, Attorney General Pam Bondi, why did you shut down this investigation last July, and why have you not prosecuted former Prince Andrew?
Yes, and that is what I have been saying too and asking too. What did you uncover? Because what we were being told was that there was no evidence that might lead you to believe that anything had happened. There's no co-conspirators. And if there had been any evidence, then we looked into it and we absolved them. And so now that we see, like now that she admits that this is Prince Andrew, mounted and Prince Andrew mounted bottom, or whatever his last name is now, mounting a sex trafficking victim, what did you find when you investigated him that made this not a big deal? Like what is it? Like what is it?
I don't believe you asked Merrick Garland these questions when he was Attorney General and set before.
I agree with you.
You twice.
I'm reclaiming my time. I agree with you. I agree with you. During the Biden administration, I called for people looking at Epstein files. Merrick Garland dropped the ball, as did Attorney General Bill Barr, as did Alex Acosta, a whole string of failures, but you are in charge. You have the power to change things, to hold these men accountable, and you're doing the opposite. You're protecting them.
Great
so
point.
I want to move on to another man.
Can I answer
Donald
that,
Trump.
though?
I want to move on to another
Can I
question.
answer your question about protecting
You answered the question.
You're saying no. I love this.
I want to discuss another
Oh
man,
my
Donald
gosh.
Trump, who is all over the Epstein files.
Yeah.
Like former Prince. Here's the video.
I have to mute that probably because it's some sort of like, oh, this is, what is it? Oh.
Former Prince Andrew, Donald Trump attended various parties with Jeffrey Epstein. I want to know, were there any underage girls at that party or at any party that Trump attended with Jeffrey Epstein?
This is so ridiculous.
Oh, no. I would hate for her to be lying for me. I would hate for her to be lying for me, brother. No. It was Rhythm as a Dancer. I would hate for her to be lying for me. That performative like pause. She's so bad at those like performative indignant moments where she just pauses or huffs or takes like a deep exhalation. It's so fake. It's like when Erica Kirk cries. It's just not what it really looks like. So
with Jeffrey Epstein.
This is so ridiculous, and that they are trying to deflect from all the great things Donald Trump has done. There is no evidence that Donald Trump has committed a crime. Everyone knows that. This has been the most transparent presidency. He's the one that asked that those...
No, see, that's what I mean, though. That's what I mean. There's tons of evidence. They keep saying that, but that's not true. That's what they keep saying, and it's not true. There's tons of evidence that people committed crimes. Now, that evidence might be circumstantial in some cases. That evidence might be, direct in some cases. We don't have it. It might be entirely inferential, but there is a constellation of evidence that people committed crimes. That does not mean that they committed crimes, but there is evidence of it. And so what did you do with this evidence? What did you look into it? Was there an investigation? Like what? And the answer is, of course not. Of course they didn't actually absolve these people. But I would honestly, They really made a mistake when they put Pam Bondi here. They made a mistake when they put Kash Patel here. They made a mistake when they appointed Donald Trump president. If they wanted to keep, if the Illuminati wanted to keep this secret, Donald Trump was the worst person to make president because he's a terrible liar. Pam Bondi is terrible at this.
Let me claim my time. I got your answer. You said there's no evidence.
Trump asked
Mr. Chairman, please stop the clock.
Stop
the clock.
The legislation. This is ridiculous.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath. And this is on videotape. You said...
How dare you?
Here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop the limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronized his operation.
There it is. That's it. That's it right there.
There are over 1,000.
That's it right there. There was no investigation, right? That's just it. There was no investigation. that they were telling us there was no evidence to get us to think that, like, okay, well, there's no reason to investigate. There's nothing to investigate. Now that we see it, there's tons of evidence. And there likely was an investigation, right? But what I mean is there wasn't the kind of investigation aimed at like understanding and like bringing charges against these people. And all of these like witnesses who were never followed up with, like and this is not just falling on Pam Bondi's head. She is correct that this is not just her. This is the entirety of the system that was meant to protect these rich and powerful people. It's just that those people made a really bad decision when they like had Pam Bondi be their avatar in this case, because Pam Bondi is terrible at this. And honestly, you have to say, if Trump hadn't gotten elected on a wave of conspiratorial thinking, and he hadn't like in a terrible staffing move, if he hadn't appointed 3 people, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino, as basically like the faces of this investigation. 2 people, Bongino and Patel, who spent a lot of time drumming up a lot of conspiratorial feeling about this, it is likely we would not be getting these troves of information. They're going to try to say that that's like Donald Trump trying to give this information to you. It's not. It's Donald Trump being terrible at hiding things, because he's never been actively trying to hide stuff very well. The system just doesn't exist to hold these people accountable. And so there has been very little effort that these billionaires have had to put into to hiding this stuff or coming up with compelling lies. There was no real effort to cover this stuff up, apparently, because ultimately they were right. People weren't going to investigate it, really. What they didn't expect was a president to be elected who rode in on a wave of, like I said, conspiratorial thinking and let's look behind the curtains. I'm going to let you look behind the curtains. And then he appointed to key positions people who their specific look behind the curtain thing was Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein files. It was just an own goal. You got to say, and this is not a point in his favor. It's actually a point in his detriment. If Kamala had been elected, I don't think we would be seeing all of this. I simply don't. I don't think she has like a personal reason to protect these people, but I don't think the momentum that we're seeing now for this would be in place if it weren't for like Donald Trump getting elected, which again is like a consequence of his presidency, not a result, but that's the same thing, but not something he's targeted to do. This was just like this was an incredible own goal by the Trump administration, and Pam Bondi is obviously just someone who's like she's a cog in that wheel, but an important cog, obviously,
who patronizes operation. And as we say here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
The gentleman has expired.
Honestly, if you think she just perjured herself in front of Congress, you should call for her arrest. Is that not a crime? Is it not a crime to like perjure yourself in front? I mean, no one ever gets in trouble for it. But like, if you really believe she lied, because she did, she said that there's no evidence. She said there was no evidence to conclude that Donald Trump had did something illegal. You showed the evidence, and you also showed that they didn't even look into the evidence, and that's just a lie. That's point. Flawless victory. So what are you going to do about it, right? That's just an example of the lack of accountability. It's embarrassing for her to be called out like that, but embarrassing is not a formal sanction, especially when you you've provably just committed a crime in front of live television. Contempt of Congress, yeah. I mean, how do you not have contempt for them? Even when they're doing the right thing, they still don't have any like bite. But since he brought up the victim, let's also watch her go back and forth with Pramila Jayapal, because they have exchange that is incredibly rooted in like her not doing a real investigation, because that's the key here. They said there was no evidence. There is evidence. What did you do to dismiss it? To like to say, hey, there was no crime here. Where is the Pramila Jayapal? Breaking, all hell breaks loose. Like, yeah, she just goes like buck wild here. It's like I said, it's so unconvincing, but still so unhinged.
Questions recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Attorney General Bondi, right here. We are joined in this room by some of the thousands of survivors from Jeffrey Epstein's horrific sex trafficking ring. They have shown such incredible courage in speaking out, in demanding accountability to bring the predators and pedophiles to justice. The Epstein Files Transparency Act required your Department of Justice to disclose the perpetrators connected with Epstein's criminal activities and to redact the information of survivors to protect their identities. Let me show you what actually happened. First, in violation of the law, your department has shown a pattern of redacting the names of powerful predators. Here behind me is one example of an email from Epstein to a man whose name was redacted. The email reads, quote, "Where are you? Are you okay? I loved the torture video."
That could mean anything. That could mean anything, right? And that's unironically what some people would say to that. Like that could be in reference to anything. That could be in reference to anything. And so why should we look into it? Which is not the right like thing to think, right? Because the answer is like, yeah, it could be in reference to anything. That's why you should look into it.
Only after members of Congress demanded that we see the unredacted files did the world learn the name of this individual, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, the chairman and CEO of a company that had financial ties to President Trump's business and personal ties to Trump's advisor, Steve Bannon.
Of course.
Second, the survivors were not similarly protected, also in violation of the law. Here is another email titled Epstein Victim List. We have blurred the names of the survivors for their protection, but your Department of Justice initially released this list of 32 survivors' names with only one name redacted, along with...
Yeah, like they went through much more trouble to ensure that they were redacting the names of powerful people than they did to ensure that they were redacting the names of the victims. And that shouldn't surprise you at all. That shouldn't surprise you at all, but it just shows you what their priorities are.
Survivors' names with only one name redacted, along with numerous files that disclose not only the names, the emails, and the addresses of survivors, but also nude photographs and even the identities of Jane Does who had been protected for decades until your department released their names. Survivors are now telling us that their families are finding out for the first time that they were trafficked by Epstein. In their words, quote, "This release does not provide closure. It feels like a deliberate attempt to intimidate survivors, punish those who came forward, and reinforce the same culture of secrecy that allowed Epstein's crimes to continue for decades." To the survivors in the room, if you are willing, please stand. And if you are willing, please raise your hands if you have still not been able to meet with this Department of Justice. Please know for the record that every single survivor has raised their hand.
Of course.
Attorney General Bondi.
Because let me tell you, they were clear about what their goals were. They told you, like they told you what they did. And it's only because media in the U.S. tries to convince you that you did not hear what you heard, or that the implications of what you heard are something magically different than what you heard, that you don't remember what they told you. But they told you they took every FBI agent off every single thing to go and look for Trump's name in these files and redact them. They told you they scrubbed those files. And now they're going like, did you know that they scrubbed those files? Like, yes, they said that we already knew that. You see what's happening. You see what's happening. Don't lower your frequency by pretending like something is not happening that is happening right in front of you.
Survivor has raised their hand. Attorney General Bondi, you apologized to the survivors in your opening statement for what they went through at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein. Will you turn to them now and apologize for what your Department of Justice has put them through with the absolutely unacceptable release of the Epstein files and their information.
Congresswoman, you sat before Merrick Garland sat in this chair twice.
Oh my God.
Attorney General Bondi,
can I finish my answer?
No, I'm going to reclaim my time because I asked you a specific question that I would like you to answer, which is, will you turn to the survivors? This is not about anybody that came before you. It is about you taking responsibility for your Department of Justice and the harm that it has done to the survivors who are standing right behind you and are waiting for you to turn to them and apologize for what your Department of Justice has done.
Members get to ask the questions, the witness get to answer in the way they want to answer. The Attorney General can
That's
respond.
not accurate, Mr. Chairman.
Because she doesn't like the answer. So,
Mr. Chairman,
why?
I have asked.
I will say I do disagree with that assertion, though. It does matter what other people did before her, which is what Ted Lieu said too, because this has been a systemic cover-up, and it reveals the underbelly of our political system is controlled beyond a point of just what Democrats and Republicans pretend like they're fighting for on the surface, right? Because neither party had any initiative to do this publicly until Trump stepped on a landmine that he laid for himself for no reason. Because if that hadn't happened, we just simply wouldn't be here.
And she asked Merrick Garland this.
I am reclaiming my time, and when I reclaim my time, it is
Mr. Chairman, the gentlelady's reclaimed her
I'm not going to get in the gutter for her theatrics.
The time belongs to the gentlelady. The gentlelady has 17 seconds.
Thank you. You're not going to answer this question, so let me just
Chairman,
say this.
I'll direct it to
what
you.
a massive cover-up.
No, I'm answering a question.
Mr. Chairman, will you restore her time? The witness is interrupting.
I'm not going to get in the gutter with this woman.
Stop the
She's
time
doing theatrics.
and let me have my time.
Oh my gosh, yeah, she's doing theatrics.
Controls the time. The gentlelady has 17 seconds. You can proceed with your final 17 seconds.
What a massive cover-up this has been and continues to be. Donald Trump made the release of the Epstein files the center of his political campaign because he thought it would benefit him. Then you got into office, Attorney General, claimed to have a client list, only to then say that there was no list. Your deputy, Todd Blanche,
such a terrible idea.
Maxwell,
the gentlelady has
transferred her
expired
to a minimum security prison, and now you continue the cover-up. And I wish that you would turn around to the survivors who are standing right behind you and on a human level,
Chairman,
the chair now recognizes the chair.
And what you have done.
The time of the gentlelady expired. The gentlelady, you have no time to yield back. We appreciate that. We appreciate.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you appreciate it, Jim Jordan. Yeah, I mean, it's all so disgusting. It's all so disgusting. And it, like I said, it relied on someone who is in the files being elected president again. For it to come out. And Pramila Jayapal is not even correct. Donald Trump did not make releasing the Epstein files the center of his campaign. That's not the case. Conspiratorialism was at the heart of his campaign, broadly speaking, but he would always dodge the Epstein question. He would always dodge it. He made the mistake of putting people who were a lot more vocal about that conspiracy specifically in high enough positions where you could expect them to actively release those things. Because had Kash Patel not become the director, had he become the deputy director and Trump kept some normal like surveillance state ghoul as the head of the FBI, then Kash Patel and Donald Trump could have always just said like, well, it's not us who won't release it. It's this guy who works for me who I don't control for it somehow, which some people would have bought up. The same way they buy it up for other promises he doesn't fulfill. It's always, the swamp can never fully be drained. He's like bad at hiring, stuff like that. But when he became the director of the FBI, and Bongino became the deputy director, and then Pam Bondi is like the attorney general, there really is just no excuse. You could just do whatever you want. And every excuse he makes is just not corresponding with the reality that we know about Trump. Oh, it would be against the law. Trump breaks the law all the time. Oh, because he cares so much about victims. Yeah, Trump loves women's consent. Trump loves respecting women. Trump loves respecting like the dignity of women. Okay, tell me another one. So it flies in the face of reason. What should we do next? Which insane moment should we do next? Like, Pam Bondi goes basically just like legendary Super Saiyan Karen in all of these moments. Not just like normal Karen, but the kind of videos that you see on those police body cam channels that are entitled things like drunk Karen gets arrested after punching staff at local country club. That's the power level that Pam Bondi brings to these sessions. Like, so, you know, it is something to behold, and it's still incredibly suspicious and what's I'm looking for, disingenuous. But yeah, let's watch this one where she has an explosive fight with Goldman.
New York recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I went over to the department yesterday for a couple of hours to review some of the unredacted materials. And I am looking forward to your detailed explanation for why you have withheld almost half of the documents, which is required by the bill. Now, obviously, there are 3 million documents, so I didn't get through much. But one thing I didn't see was the client list that you said you had on your desk a year ago. I did, however, find a couple of important documents. An 86-page prosecution memo from the Southern District of New York, and a draft indictment from Florida against Jeffrey Epstein's co-conspirators. For reasons that I cannot understand nor are permitted by the bill, they were still redacted, even for members of Congress. So, Ms. Bondi, will you commit right here to immediately providing those 2 documents in unredacted form to members of Congress? Not a complicated question.
Well, I guess it is for you because you have a law degree and those are privileged.
Okay, they're not privileged, but we will discuss that later. I also found an email that I have right here from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell that was unredacted, and it included notes of statements that Donald Trump made about his prior relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, there is no reason for this to be hidden from the American people. There is no privilege, there is no attorney-client privilege, and I see you're checking with your staff, and I can assure you, staff, this is not under attorney-client privilege because it was sent from Jeffrey Epstein to Ghislaine Maxwell. Will you commit to publicly providing the unredacted version of this so that the American people can understand?
So is that like all about Trump, you think? Do you think that email is just like entirely about Trump? I'm just asking. I'm just speculating because it's entirely blacked out, and it's from Ghislaine Maxwell to Jeffrey Epstein, or between them. I don't know who sent it. But do you think it's about Trump, or do you think it's about some other like rich person? Because if it were about some other rich person, it probably would not be fully redacted unless that's a rich person that Trump has direct business ties with, like the torture video Sultan. So like it could be about that guy too, maybe. But my guess, it's like another Trump mention, but like a bad one.
Understand the extent of Donald Trump's lies about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein.
You're about as good of a lawyer today as you were when you tried to impeach President Trump in 2016. Have you apologized for that in 2019?
So will you unredact this? Will you unredact this?
You were lead counsel on that. Privileged.
I'm asking you, will you unredact this?
Privileged.
Privileged, of course.
Privilege.
I look forward to discussing this more.
Pedo privilege.
Now, these are obviously improper redactions.
That's the only protected group in the United States of America now under Donald Trump. Like, there's no other type of DEI. There's no other type of affirmative action except for billionaire pederasts.
And let me stop for a minute.
I'm talking.
If they're not privileged,
quiet.
Don't yell at me. If they're not
Mr. Chairman, would you stop the clock? This is on your time. It's not on Mr. Goldman.
If they're not
privileged, you used your improper redaction.
You'll like my answer.
To continue to protect
and they're not privileged,
time belongs to the member.
We'll be happy to release them.
Yeah, we'll stop the clock. We'll stop the clock. Time belongs to the member. Go ahead.
Even though you used improper redactions to protect Donald Trump and other predators associated with Jeffrey Epstein, You did the exact opposite.
Yes. Just call him that. Yeah, he's a predator. He said it right there. Donald Trump's a predator. What kind of predator? Put the qualifier on it.
With the survivors and victims of this scheme. So their identification information was really the only thing required to be redacted, and it was not. And it's clear this was not a mistake. This was not by accident. This was not because you only had 30 days when you really used 75, and that doesn't even include all the hours last March that you were redacting it. But I'll tell you why it's clear it wasn't a mistake. There is an email entitled Epstein Victim List. There are 32 names. 1 is redacted, 31 are not. So someone looked at it and decided to redact something. And I will tell you that that is clearly intentional to intimidate these survivors and victims. Now, in an interview last week—
How will you tell me that's intentional?
In an interview last week, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche—
You can't go off script.
—said that any victim that wants to speak with the department has done so, hopefully. Well, thanks to the incredibly brave people sitting here behind you, we can actually ask them if that's true. Now, would the survivors and victims who are here please stand up one more time? Just by show of hands, how many of you or your loved ones actually have met with the Department of Justice and provided testimony and evidence? None. And of those of you who have not met, which is everyone, how many of you have reached out either individually or through a lawyer or representative to offer to provide testimony and evidence? All of them. And of those of you, all of you who have reached out, how many of you were denied or ignored by the Department of Justice? All of them. And despite the shameful and despicable efforts by Ms. Bondi and her department to intimidate you, how many of you are still willing to speak to the Department of Justice? All of them. Well, Ms. Bondi, it looks like you have some more witnesses to talk to.
Gentleman's time has expired.
And I yield back.
We will go to the good gentleman from North Carolina, Congressman Knott.
I mean, I would not hold my breath about that, especially given this performance. They seem pretty dedicated to resisting releasing any real information. People say that it was intentionally like releasing that list to intimidate those names. I mean, I think that materially it doesn't matter whether there's so little care about protecting the victims or if it was like literally maliciously intentional. I think the stronger point is that like their true goal is to go through and protect the most powerful. There was never any intention to ever engage in this case in the pursuit of justice for the victimized. There was only ever engagement with this case. And I would even say from previous administrations, there was only ever engagement with this case when it came to like protecting the most powerful and punishing the fewest amount of people possible to get people off your back, to get people to say like, okay, well, I guess at least someone went to jail. And everything beyond that has been subterfuge. It's been obscuring it. It's been like trying to deflect, and it's just coming rapidly to a head. And so, I think it's easy to imagine that they'll have to do something because like, what would it mean if they didn't do something? Like, what would it mean for our society if they did nothing about this? What would it mean for the Democrats if they can't do anything about this? Well, they would win the midterms. Very likely they would win the midterms in any district that they are able to leverage this effectively as part of a general anti-Trump agenda. But if they get in power and then they don't do anything about this again to hold anyone accountable, whether it's because like the Republicans continue to like obstruct them or because Trump continues to obstruct them with his administration or just because like they also want to protect the powerful, it just is going to like overall degrade American society to the point in which I don't know if it can come back from without an extreme I guess revitalization attempt, right? Because a lot of people will just no longer have faith, and maybe they shouldn't, and maybe they definitely shouldn't after it just goes unpunished, but a lot of people would lose whatever remnants of faith they have in the American justice system, which would have like a lot of ripple effects for just like the daily lives of people in ways that we've already experienced before, but would likely increase in frequency in terms of like people going after, CEOs, people going after politicians, like school shootings, like just like mass unrepentant violence. It's just things like that become a lot more probable when people lose total faith in a society's ability or willingness to actively enforce justice in a way that resembles what they think it should resemble.
It's expired. Gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you. I seek unanimous consent to introduce into the record the research that Representative Kamlager-Dove and I referenced concerning the threat of right-wing domestic terrorism, which the Department of Justice scrubbed from its website in September.
Without objection, the gentlelady from Texas is recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And to be clear, I'm not going to ask any questions of this witness because this witness has revealed that she has no intentions of answering questions. But instead, I'm going to ask some very basic questions really quickly of my colleague, Becca Ballant, if she will answer right or wrong, raping children.
Wrong.
Right or wrong, killing random citizens.
Definitely wrong.
Right or wrong, enriching yourself as the sitting president of the United States.
Definitely wrong.
Okay, thank you, because I probably never would have got that with our witness. Our witness who somehow is a lawyer but does not understand how it works with witnesses. I'm not really sure what law school she went to and what all kind of cases she tried, but typically when you come into a space and somebody's a witness, then they sit there and they answer questions instead of asking questions. And then we also have this objection that we use as lawyers called non-responsive when a witness fails to actually answer the question. But nevertheless, let me address the survivors, because that's exactly who they are. They are not victims, they are survivors. Let me say thank you for having more courage and moral clarity in your pinky fingers than the entire Department of Justice. We are currently the laughing stock of the world, partially because of the failed leadership within the DOJ, as we see kings and queens falling everywhere around the world. But we don't know the basics of right and wrong in this country, because it's not about partisanship. And that's why I applaud Thomas Massie, because he's the only person on the Republican side that has a backbone and knows how to stand up to corruption. But nevertheless, let me keep going. My Democratic colleagues have been attacked.
Too hard.
This entire committee hearing, they have been lied on, and frankly, the American people weren't looking for that. They were looking for answers about the corruption that they see coming from this administration. In the written testimony of this witness, of this particular witness, she stated that when she took office, she had two main goals. The first was to end the weaponization of justice, and second, to return the department to its core mission. Not only have you lied about both, you've intentionally done the exact opposite. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States...
she's because I thought she was going to say it. Because the way she was pivoting, but I don't think she's going to say it, because I thought she was going to say, like, you spend more time protecting pedophiles. In fact, your boss, the president, is...
You are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States, stated that this administration, quote, took the freedom of speech away. And at your direction, DOJ has arrested Don Lemon and Georgia Fort. And I might add that y'all actually had a judge that rejected y'all for trying to arrest Don Lemon before, just like the grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Kelly, just like a grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Slotkin, just like the case against Tish James was dismissed and the case against Mr. Comey was dismissed. I completely don't get how it is that you're sitting at the top of DOJ, because you don't seem to be good at your job. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting these journalists. In fact,
she's great at that. Well, that's not so. Like, actually, what I said was not true. I said her job was protecting pedos, and she's great at that. But that's actually not true. Her job is protecting pedos, and she's terrible at it, because ultimately she's bombing here. The entire cover-up has been handled terribly by everyone involved. And Trump is at the fault for that, even if he wasn't the main person pushing these like conspiracy theories, or I guess conspiracy theory is a loaded term, right? Wasn't the main person pushing interest in Epstein on Rumble the way Kash Patel and Dan Bongino is, but he did hire those people. So at the heart of it, it is his fault. Like, but he is terrible at hiring. Terrible job.
We know after Georgia Fort and Don Lemon were arrested, we know that there were homes of journalists that were raided. We know that threatened prosecution against students protesting your actions and forced tech companies to remove apps used to track ISIS activities. But let's circle back to you protecting pedophiles and creeps, because I want to talk about the president and his...
I think what gets me about like Jasmine Crockett is that she kind of like delivers a lot of these, like she's doing slam poetry. Like it's a little bit of like a slam poetry delivery, because sometimes when like politicians go for the delivery, they go for like black preacher, which I don't care for. This is more like slam poetry cadence, and I think it actually it works. I like this one.
His possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't know what the president might have done with
she's a
Jeffrey
Democrat,
Epstein, but
so
unlike
she's
this
not
administration,
that
I
good on
believe that
things,
facts
but-
matter. So let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two.
38,000 times. I don't think I've ever said anyone's name 38,000 times, except for maybe like mom, right? Like if maybe you have like a sibling that you were always fighting with and you were going like, Josh, constantly, Marsha, but 38,000 times, that's good, friends. Like, I mean, like I said, mom, you say mom a lot, but that's great, friends. That's great. That's 38,000 times. A lot of times. And that's in the files that we have. Imagine how many are in the files that we don't have. It might be over 1 million.
Two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, this is a good one. Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in...
I mean, do you need to say it? Do you need... I don't think... I'm... What was that?
Victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, this is a good one. Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles.
He's minor attracted, as the new administration makes you say now.
Crazy about all of this is just that this is a big cover-up. And this administration is engaged in it. In fact, this administration is complicit. But there are numerous others, like how the DOJ is attempting to obstruct justice in the investigation of the rogue agents who have murdered American citizens, or how the DOJ seized voter data from Fulton County in an attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections, or how federal agents have Tom Homan on tape accepting a bribe and your agency killed the investigation, or how your agency is ready to give the president a $230 million payday, which is unconstitutional. The Constitution is clear. The president shall not receive any payment except his salary while in office. The fact of the matter is that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history. An attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Gentlelady yields. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized. Excuse me, gentleman from Kansas, the attorney general.
Okay, that was another strong one. But again, no matter how strong these are, I just don't want you to think that this is the same thing as accountability. Being yelled at in front of Congress is just some people's job. It's just part of some people's job. Just like it's part of your job to like send emails or something like that, or like, you know, whatever part of your job you want to correspond to this, like it's also part of Pam Bondi's job to go in front of Congress and get yelled at. Now, she doesn't have to go like Max Karen in front of Congress while getting yelled at. There are a lot of ways to get yelled at in front of Congress. You could do like the Mark Zuckerberg getting yelled at. You could do plenty of people have it as part of their job that they just get yelled at in front of Congress. And that's way better than any real accountability. A lot of times people who watch people get yelled at in front of Congress don't understand that it's not real accountability because they have shame. And they go like, I would be embarrassed to get yelled at on television. But like I said before, if you paid me what Mark Zuckerberg makes and all I had to do was get yelled at by like Elizabeth Warren in front of Congress, I would laugh. I'd laugh in her face. Do something like but obviously you can't do. Well, I guess you can do that. All bets are off now that Pam Bondi has gone like full sicko mode. You can do whatever you want in front of Congress and they're not going to do anything. But yeah, like this is not real accountability. This is not even an informal sanction because she's not even like supplicating herself. Brat 6738. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. This is totally off topic, but I love your shirt. I appreciate that. It's a nice one. I think I got this one in like Spitalfields Market. I just like grabbed it. You know how sometimes they just will have like a vintage pop-up or like one of those stores that like has reproduction vintage stuff. I got it from there, I believe. Brian Ptolemy, thank you for the $10 Canadian. This seems like a good time to point out that PALPAC has now been created to lobby for Palestinians and combat AIPAC. Well, I mean, that's something, although I do question the not legitimacy, although maybe I should question that too, but the practicality of that, because like AIPAC is not just popular amongst our politicians because they funnel money to them. AIPAC is popular with our politicians because they exist as part of like entire ecosystem that includes the military industrial complex and oil lobbyists and like Christian Zionists and all types of incredibly important, at least within our political system, like what I'm looking for, special interest groups that are otherwise, unaligned and are harder to take money from. Like why a lot of Democrats loved AIPAC was because it was a way for them to take money from the military industrial complex without looking like you're taking money from the military industrial complex. It was a way to take money from like the war lobby without someone being able to accuse you of taking money from like the war lobby. Because if you take money from like the war lobby, people go like, oh, you took money from like arms manufacturers. But if you took money from AIPAC and people go like, hey, you took money from AIPAC before, things got really bad in Gaza, at least this time under the full eye of like modern social media, if someone criticized you for taking money from AIPAC, yeah, they would probably be like a lot more sophisticated in their understanding of the situation. But you could always just respond with like, oh, you think it's bad to take money from the only Jewish state? Because you can rely on the fact that most people don't understand just how unique AIPAC's relationship with our politicians are compared to, let's say, for example, other countries that aren't allowed to lobby that way. And now that people attach like Israel, which is what AIPAC used to be attached with genocide and war anyway, it is a lot more problematic. So you have a lot of Democrats who are just like used to taking money from Lockheed Martin and the surveillance state and, the military industrial complex in one form or another, who were getting their money through AIPAC, who are now being asked to stop getting that money, who are like, whoa. Like, that's just the way we like funnel money to ourselves from people who you're not supposed to realize we take money from. And so AIPAC is like a shell group that puts like a positive marginalized identity onto like a bomb so that it can be sold more readily to like the liberal population who would otherwise be, maybe a little bit more suspicious of politician in their district who's saying things like, I love to make taking money from Lockheed Martin and going to war in the Middle East. But that's what taking money from AIPAC is. Like, not like, oh, through, through like a shell, but like not kind of, like it's exactly what it is. That's what it means to show support for Israel within our political system. It's not like caring about Jewish people. Obviously, you know that, but of course it's not that, because that would be anti-Semitic to associate Israel or to make Israel inextricably from Jewish identity in totality. nationality. Obviously, that's something that neoliberals like to do with identity because it makes it easier to disguise that they're racist bigots when you make it so that, like, well, when people think about being racist, they think of low-class people from the South, like hillbillies. And also when they think about like pro-black people or pro-blackness, they don't think about like an entire bucket of social changes that need to be made to like the way we structure society. They think about like whatever like Jay-Z is doing this week. And so it's easier as a liberal politician if you can just make it so that people think about like being anti-racist as like going on the Breakfast Club or hanging out with Jay-Z, and not, oh, I actually have to maybe actually untangle some of the historical racist baggage that our country has. And so Israel was that too. It was a good way for people to be able to not be accused of being like or contributing to anti-Semitic bigotry structurally by making it indistinguishable from like a special lobby group that was associated with a nation state that had cloaked itself in that identity too. And so, it's not just the money that AIPAC has. Like, it's also like all of the things that AIPAC and Israel are representative of within our system, specifically for the Democrats, which is something that they don't want to lose, which is the ability to take money from the military industrial complex and also be like, imperialistic in the Middle East, because that's like all it's ever been for them. And, maybe some of them actually believe some of the like, more superficial identity politics of it because they're stupid. But again, that's not a justification. It's just that we've been doing that for a really long time. What should we do next? Oh, Jared, should we do let's do the Jared Moskowitz clip, because he talks about the fact that she has like a burn book, like fucking Harriet the Spy in that Nickelodeon movie with Rosie O'Donnell, where she's played by Michelle Trachtenberg. She has like a whole burn book that people can like actually see. And honestly, it basically goes exactly how it went for Harriet the Spy in in that Nickelodeon movie, if I'm being like totally honest.
Several UCs as receipts. I'd like to have unanimous consent to introduce the National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, dated September 25th, 25.
Objection.
The Bondi Department of Justice memo dated December 4th, 2025.
Objection.
An article from Newsweek entitled DOJ Deletes Study Alleging Rise in Far-Right Terrorism, dated September 18th, 2025.
Without objection.
Notice article from October 3rd, 2025. Trump's directive on organized political violence could lead to increased surveillance of his critics.
Without objection.
Washington Post article, September 25th, 2025. Trump targets domestic terrorists, but only mentions the radical left.
Without objection.
Idaho Capital Sun, October 18th, 2025. Rest easy, Idahoans. The No King demonstrators are American patriots.
Without objection.
Attacks on freedom of speech, what nonprofits need to know, published by the National Council of Nonprofits, the largest network of nonprofits in America.
Without objection.
The Freedom from Religious Foundation warns that Bondi memo weaponizes federal law enforcement against non-Christians and dissenting viewpoints.
Without objection.
A Ken Klipperstein blog from January 28th, 26, ICE's secret watch list of Americans.
Shout out to Triple K, Ken the Killer Klippenstein. Bum, 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 bum. Got clipped. Wow. People are going to think that I am mistaken in my reference because burn book, I think the term is from Mean Girls, but real Harriet the Spy heads know that in the Nickelodeon movie, Harriet the Spy, that Michelle Trachtenberg has a book of notes because she's a spy that she keeps on all of like the people who are around her that is indistinguishable from a burn book, because some of the spy notes she keeps are like, how come Bobby's so poor? Like, and dresses so bad.
Without objection.
And an Intercept article from February 2nd, 26, Trump calls his enemies terrorists. Does that mean he can kill them?
Without objection, the gentleman from Florida is recognized.
She should read some of the, she should have like, and I know this is me trying to like big up myself, but I think it would have been a perfect time to introduce some of the titles of my streams into the record. Like, I know Ken Klippenstein is a lot more popular than I am right now. right now. But like, I think had she been like the January 5th episode of the Discourse stream, President Chomo invades Venezuela, episode 375 of the Discourse, minor attracted president kidnaps new. No. But no, actually, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Attorney General Bondi.
Good afternoon.
Oh, you're right. Good afternoon. It's been a long day. I wrote this morning. We've known each other a long time. And
why does he have a copy of Harry Potter in the Chamber of Secrets? Is that like a prop? Oh, is he gonna do prop comedy? Okay, yeah. I haven't watched it, so some of you probably already know. But is he gonna go like full Carrot Top? He's gonna do some prop comedy for sure.
I wrote this morning. We've known each other a long time.
He's a cut up.
I'll always be appreciative for your assistance when you were Attorney General in Florida after the shooting at my high school at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. In my hometown of Parkland, when we passed a bipartisan bill, the Marjory Stoneman Douglas School Safety Act, which was the largest policy response to a school shooting in American history. Your department also prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law a constituent of mine and former felon that had plans to kill me when he was picked up by law enforcement after he was target practicing in his backyard with 2 rifles, a scope, a silencer, 3,000 rounds of ammunition, an anti-Semitic manifesto. My name was the only name on their target list, and my kids found out about this from their friends at school.
Well, I mean,
so thank you.
It's not really a list then.
However,
but yeah, that sucks.
The most transparent administration in American history. Before Trump, we didn't know the word transparency, apparently. It's been 12 months since you gave Republican influencers part 1 of the Epstein files. You said the list was on your desk. Then a memo came out and said that there was no list. Phase 2 of the binders never happened. The President of the United States says the Epstein thing is a hoax.
I'm so glad he mentioned the binders. I love the binders.
He blamed Barack Obama. Republicans voted against the release of the files in the Rules Committee. Then they refused to even return to the Rules Committee until they could be protected from future votes on the release. Speaker Johnson sends Congress home a day early before break. They sent the Deputy Attorney General to meet with Maxwell. She says something favorable about the president. Miraculously, she gets transferred to a minimum security facility. No one can explain why.
I can explain it.
To the Wall Street Journal.
I can explain it. You want me to explain it?
We come back from break. We have the Massey discharge petition. Republicans drop a rule, a non-binding resolution trying to kill the Massey discharge petition. The White House says passing the Massey discharge petition is a hostile act. Trying to stop the necessary 218 signatures, according to Republican members that signed it, the White House brought them into the Situation Room. You know, the place.
I'm not happy that this guy's going to do prop comedy, and apparently that constituent wasn't either. But I'm so glad he's mentioning these parts, because I don't like when they don't mention how these narratives have shifted, because to me, that's the biggest issue. That is like the biggest sign that there's a cover-up going on. But sometimes, because, and I don't know if he's not the only one, obviously, but narratives shift like 180 degrees in our political system and our political media all the time. And very rarely are people expected to account for that shift sufficiently. And it's gotten worse and worse. And it's one of the things that oftentimes gives a lot of rise to conspiracy theories, because conspiracy theorists of the bad kind, obviously, will pop up to fill in those gaps. They'll pop up to fill in, for example, why last week, and I hate to use the Democrat example, but obviously we're getting a lot of Republican ones, but they'll pop in to fill in, for example, why Democrats were saying, well, we think that you're smart enough to make your own healthcare decisions back before the pandemic, when they didn't want to give you free healthcare. But during the pandemic, when they want you to get a vaccine, they seemingly don't trust you to be smart enough to make your own healthcare decisions. And we understand why that's not the same thing, and we understand why that is not and we understand why that is the case, right? What the underlying issues for why they want you to get vaccinated and why they don't want to give you healthcare, and how they both are rooted in like capitalist extraction of labor. But we understand, capitalist exploitation of labor. But, people who are just viewing from the outside without that context, they just see like huge gaps. They just see huge pivots that don't make any sense. And that's when a conspiracy theorist comes in and goes like, oh, it's because like the jabs are poison. It's because that stuff is like, they're trying to like mind control you now. And for most people, they don't necessarily believe that. They do find it strange, and maybe they just don't care because like people have been so like inured to this sort of thing. But for a subsection of the population, especially when it's big like this, they do notice, and it does empower conspiracy theorists. So I'm glad like at least he's highlighting it, because to me, people gloss over that all the time because they don't want to come to the obvious conclusion that Trump is covering it up. Because like when you point out the gaps in those narratives, when you bring up the folders and then you bring up the memo in the DOJ, there's really nothing else you can say besides like those two things don't make sense together. And so very rarely do people really want to talk about that with them, because like, if you press too hard, it does become like, well, who knows what'll fall out.
To Republican members that signed it, the White House brought them into the Situation Room, the place where the president goes at the time of war, promising things like appropriations or maybe even to primary them.
He bribed them.
Say you were there. It didn't work. We get the 218 signatures. We eventually passed the Massey petition. You guys didn't release the files. You were forced by Congress, every member of the House except one, and the entire Senate. The reason the president signed it is because it was a veto-proof majority. We can't agree on anything.
He could not be doing more to prevent it.
One member and the whole Senate forced the administration to release the files. Kash Patel under oath said to Senator Kennedy, the FBI is not in possession of any credible evidence that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone but himself. We know now that's not true.
I knew when he fucking said it wasn't true. It could not have been true. Throw it away. Throw it away. Throw it away. Don't engage. When people try to trap you into those low frequency debates, because people feel empowered by that. You have to understand, people watch a lot of Joe Rogan. And so when they can force you to explain basic reality to them, it makes them feel really smart and powerful because they don't understand things as well as you do. And so sometimes people they want to trap you at their frequency. They want to trap you at their vibration by making you argue like about the basic facts. And a lot of times, maybe you need to, if they're your mother, if they're your like someone, a loved one in your life, like maybe you want to de-radicalize them, and that's where they're trapped. And so you want to increase their vibrational frequency. But if it's just some random person online, they're just messing with you. That's just how like dumb people have been taught to make themselves feel powerful in the age of reactionary thinking that's modeled for them by like alpha male podcasts, like where as long as I have a platform, no matter how dumb I am, there's an infinite number of people who are willing to come on to promote their own work, who are smarter than me, who will jump through hoops to explain it to me. And so like, a lot of people wanted to do that with this, like, there's no evidence thing. Don't engage with that. Like make if they won't increase their frequency by acknowledging like basic reality, just don't even talk to them. Leave them in the shadow realm. Leave them in the shadow realm. Like that's where they're happy to be, in the swamp with Shrek and Donald Trump.
Said to Senator Kennedy, the FBI is not in possession of any credible evidence that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone but himself. We know now that's not true. According to documents, Epstein had a worldwide sex trafficking ring. Girls from Poland, Czechoslovakia, Russia, Paris, modeling agencies sending him girls. He even had a relationship with a summer camp where he groomed girls at a picnic table. Ghislaine Maxwell says 29 Epstein associates cut secret DOJ deals. Turns out there is a list. 6 names readily available if you unredact them. Co-conspirators named, but we got them when you unredact them. Maxwell recently tells a House Oversight Committee that she wants clemency to release more names. Kash Patel under oath said Trump's name appears less than 100 times in the files. We now know that's not true. Trump's name appears more times in the Epstein files than God's name appears in the book about God. Okay, by the way, this is the Trump Bible. Move over, King.
Damn. No. He weakened the joke by doing like the yuck at the end. That's when you need to like, all he had to say was like, it appears more time in the Bible, point blank. But boom, headshot. It's over. Like that's a fatality. that's when you're too funny for your own good. That's when your sense of humor is too much for your own good. You know, I've been there too, because that was a very powerful line that could have just been it. You could have played the whole thing straight and been like, oh yeah, and by the way, Trump's name appears more time in the Epstein files than Jesus in the goddamn Bible. I yield the rest of my time. And people, legendary walk-off. She wouldn't, what else do you need to say? What else do you need to say after that?
Trump's name also appears more times in the Epstein file than Harry Potter's name appears in the 7 books about Harry Potter. Lutnick says that in 2008 he went to Epstein's home, says he had a massage table. He lost it. That Epstein said he got one every day, that it was the right type of massage. He and his wife decide to leave and say they'll never be in a room with him again. Howard then says, I'm sure the Epstein stuff is all on video. He was the greatest blackmailer of all time. Well, how would Howard know that?
Damn, no, but he's killing it though. See, that's why he could have played the whole thing. He's killing it though. Like this to me is the whole thing. This is the whole thing. This is the whole thing right here. This is it.
But now the files are public, and in 2012 we found out that he and his family are on Epstein Island after Epstein pled guilty to state charges.
Nasty bastard.
I'm from Florida. I take my family to Disney World, not to Epstein Island.
Yeah, that's a good one too, though. That's a good one too.
That he kicked Epstein out of his club, allegedly.
Don't take him to Mar-a-Lago either, though.
That he asked Epstein to leave. Supported now, that's disputed, though, statements from the manager of the club. Now, Madam Attorney General, I have like 25 seconds left. So because I'm curious, and I'd like to see you flip to the Jared Moskowitz section of the binder. I'm interested to see.
Are you funnier than me?
Provided on the oppo on me, and because we're in the Olympics, I'm going to give it a grade. I just want to see how good it is.
No,
so give me your best one.
Whoa! No, this is my bit. we only do bird ratings on the Discourse. Yeah. I mean, honestly, if he wants a rating on his bit, 9 out of 10. I think when it comes to the substance of his argument, the points that are like the things that you know that are the most suspicious, that most implicate Trump in this cover up, like, and there are so many examples, and everyone else of like, shit, things are not above board. You know, like, I think in terms of content, 9 out of 10. In terms of jokes, like 6 out of 10, but that like Jesus in the Bible, Trump's name in the emails thing, that was a killer. Like if it had been if he had left it at that, and then maybe also like that second one, I forget, taking my kids to Disney World while Howard Lutnick takes them to Lolita Island or whatever, like those two would have been enough to carry the entire little segment here. He oversaturated the segment with jokes, and I know that I'm guilty of that a lot of times too, but very strong on the arguments when it came to that. Crazy stuff. Wow. Are there any? Oh yeah, of course she fights with Jamie Raskin. Gosh, there's so many of this. Crazy. I guess we might as well just keep watching them. I'm going to leave in like a few minutes so I can get ready to go do Crystal Kyle and Friends. So, I mean, it doesn't really make sense to transition to a different topic, but we will be back. Tomorrow, normal time, obviously. So we'll have more time to get through stuff. So I guess it makes just more sense to get through all of the Pam Bondi stuff as opposed to just jumping around. Yeah, I'm going to do MR after Crystal Kyle and Friends. Oh yeah, I guess that's right, because some people came late to the show. I'm going to be ending this stream early so that I can go on Crystal Kyle and Friends at 11:30 Eastern. I said at the top of the show it's like 100 people, and I guess people didn't realize that. And then after that, I assume it won't go all the way into the Majority Report's fun half. I will be doing the Majority Report fun half. So it's going to be a marathon day for me, baby. But don't worry, I got a little wine. I got a little more than wine, and we are going to make it. We're all going to make it. And if we don't, we're going to take everyone with us, because that's what it means to be a winner. It means that you either win or everyone loses. Let's hear what Jamie Raskin has to say.
Recognizes the The gentleman from Maryland.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by saying I appreciate what you said, Attorney General Bondi, and you said it to me personally, that you take the personal security of every member of Congress seriously and that people can contact you about that. And in these times, that's a very serious matter. So I thank you for that. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7 of the Constitution is the Domestic Emoluments Clause. And it says that the president is limited to his salary in office and cannot receive any other money from the federal government while he's in office. It cannot be increased by $1. This president is the first president in U.S. history who has repeatedly sued the federal government for $230 million for the judicial search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, which was perfectly lawful and was never struck down. But now he's suing the IRS for $10 billion. He's suing the IRS for $10 billion, which I think is around 80% of its annual budget, because his tax returns were leaked. And they were illegally leaked by a private contractor who actually is in prison now, Charles Littlejohn, but he wants $10 billion. Now, I want to ask you the question of whether you think it would violate the Domestic Emoluments Clause for you to settle that $10 billion case or any of the other claims that the president has made against the government. He himself has remarked, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes the deal, right? And he says, I kind of have to work it out with myself. Do you think it would violate the Domestic Emoluments Clause for the president to work out a deal from people who are his subordinates under his unitary executive theory to get money in one of these cases?
I mean, obviously, but
I'm not going to discuss pending litigation.
Okay, so theoretically, you're saying because his privacy rights were violated in that tax case, and they were. I'm with the president on that. I mean, his Mar-a-Lago thing is ridiculous, but there's no doubt that his tax returns, despite the fact that he promised to release them, despite the fact that every other president released the tax returns, he suffered embarrassment when it showed that he hadn't paid taxes for several years, and he had a right for that not to happen. Now, I want to turn back to the Epstein survivors, because President Trump may have been a little bit embarrassed by the release of those tax returns. How much do you think the claims of...
Yeah, this, Pam Bondi is a real, like, look at my lawyer, dog, I'm going to jail moment. Or she would be if Trump wasn't, so well integrated into our political machine now that sending him to jail would be a domino that would be the last domino to fall, that would have to start with sending other incredibly rich and powerful people to jail, which is just not where, not what we're at right now, in the United States at least.
These survivors are worth. As the good congressman from Kentucky just pointed out, there were lots of survivors who had decided, for reasons of their own, never to release their names. That determination was represented to people in Congress, and we built it into our federal law that their names could not be released, and yet you published their names, their phone numbers, their addresses, personally identifying information. If Donald Trump can get $10 billion, theoretically, from the Department of Justice, how much should these people get for a far worse violation of their privacy rights and a far greater danger established to them in their lives?
Do you even know who Chase Mulligan is? You're so obsessed with, you don't, do you?
Again, you're
so obsessed with me.
You're obsessed with him.
You're the Attorney General of the United States.
With
And the rules,
obsessed with Donald Trump, you have Trump derangement syndrome.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like my time restored. I'd like my
She's
time
Karen
restored.
Maxing.
Your district. In your district, and you
the
don't
clock.
even know about it, about keeping children
Time belongs
safe
to
from
the gentleman.
online predators.
Time belongs to the gentleman.
What? She's like, I definitely question, I'm not a lawyer, but I question the dual tactics of like Karen Maxing and Jester Maxing when it comes to defending your client, or I guess like the entire cadre of billionaires from these kind of accusations. But it's what's popping in the streets for sure. You can't go a second on Twitter without seeing a tweet in those terms. So like, I guess it's what's popping.
About keeping children safe from online predators.
Time belongs to the gentleman from Maryland. Gentleman can proceed.
Yeah, and I want the whole country to look at this, because this is the Attorney General of the United States, whose job is law enforcement. We've never had a witness who has misunderstood our rules and been unable to conform his or her conduct to our rules before.
Really?
We have only 5 minutes. And so we use our time to ask you specific questions.
How long are you giving me to
Excuse
answer?
me, I'm not yielding to you right now. I'd like that second restored too. So, Ms. Bondi, the way it works is we ask you a question and you answer it. And if you go off on a wild goose chase, another tangent, you start reading statistics or you start talking about stuff going on in our district. And by
Dow
the way, I invite
Jones
you to my
being over
district.
50,000.
Come to my district, but that's not what we're here to do today. Okay, so, and you do that, then we're allowed to say we reclaim our time. At that point, you have to be quiet. You have no choice. You have to be quiet. So I hope you understand the rule at this point. Now, here's what I want to ask you. You're in law enforcement. We've seen all kinds of evidence of crimes. And when we go over to the Department of Justice for the 4 computers for every member of Congress, we see more evidence of crimes. Will you create a joint task force of the Department of Justice and governors and state attorney generals and district attorneys across the country to investigate the crimes that have taken place against these victims and more than 1,000 like them? The DOJ is not doing its job. Will you create a task force with state and local law enforcement to make that happen?
Thank you, Chairman. He called Chase Mulligan a wild goose chase and didn't even know who he was. He is a defendant in your own district who preyed on girls.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, you know what? If he were part of the Epstein investigation, you wouldn't do anything about it.
He should have said if his name was Donald J. Trump, you wouldn't even be saying this right now. Crazy though. Yeah. Damn, they are roasting her. It's a shame they can't put her in jail or do anything real to her, but like they are for sure roasting her. She's terrible at this. Look at my lawyer, dog. Look at my lawyer, top lawyer in the country. That country's America though, so you get what you pay for, right? Bananas. Yeah, this was a whole red flag factory though. The way she responded to all of that just like confirms so much of my preconceived notions about this, what people will say is irresponsible of me, but I don't know how it is because she's the one doing it, right? I'm just reacting to what I'm seeing. And from my perspective, just even based on what he just said there, it seems like they never even investigated this stuff. And maybe that's just because the FBI is not allowed to investigate the CIA. Maybe it's because, well, like they didn't need to investigate. It was a blackmail ring. We have all the blackmail. Everyone was involved. We have all their names. We're keeping all of our evidence and that's it. But at least from what can be released to the public, at least from what seems to be like, okay, no, I want to know what the investigation consisted of. There was no investigation. Is just what I'm getting from this. Like they certainly had a lot of evidence that would lead one to believe that there should have been an investigation, and maybe there was one. But in terms of what they would be willing to tell us they found or what they know, there, for all intents and purposes, was not an investigation that we would be allowed to see. Dark Soul 9669. Here's a pic of a criminal your district arrested. It's like, okay, thank you. But he's in jail. He's being punished for it. He committed a crime and he's going to jail. So why can't you commit to do that in this case, right? Like, why can't you do that?